Welcome to the Life's Best Medicine podcast, where we are finding hope and healing one episode at a time. No appointment needed, no rubber gloves, and no coping. Just a healthy dose of life lessons to help equip you for this wild journey we call life. Hey everyone, I wanted to give a shout out to the host of this podcast who makes all the magic happen, Simply Snacking. Thank you so much for all you do. I know you're sponsoring the Low Carb USA conference, and hopefully we'll get some snacks there. But really, just thank you for always being supportive and helping out the podcast and helping us to get the message out. So everyone, go buy Simply Snacking. This is a great company. They're doing great things. A lot of my people who are traveling right now are just taking them with them. It's easy. They get throw it in their suitcase. They get throw it in their overnight bag. And so it helps people stay on track and eat nutritious food. So Simply Snacking, thank you so much. And everyone, I hope you enjoy this podcast. Hello and welcome to the Life's Best Medicine podcast. This is kind of an everyday thing. I get someone who's running for the governor of my great state of California. Used to be great. Now we're having a few struggles over here, and we get teased a lot in the press and all that. This is a pastor. What a story. I mean, he's done everything. I look back and go, what have I done with my life? I'm just a doc doing low carb and a couple podcasts. Sam Gallucci, welcome. Pastor and running for governor of California. Welcome.
Thank you, Brian. It's so great to be with you.
It's great to have you. Now, what in the world, being a pastor, CEO, you've done all these great things. What possessed you to say, okay, I'm going to run for governor now in this recall election?
I think that's a good word, just kind of being possessed by God, by the Holy Spirit. So just a little of my story kind of is the best way to answer that question. So I've been in California 60 years. I'm a 60-year resident. At the age of 2, my parents moved us from New York. I guess like so many of my generation, we consider ourselves native Californians because we were moved at such young ages. But so I grew up here. I grew up in LA, went to school in San Diego State University, and then had a real successful career in San Francisco. And I actually met the Lord in 1980 through Campus Crusade for Christ. And Jesus became my Lord and Savior, and they got married, started my career with IBM. And 1981, and that was before the internet was a thing, before Microsoft, before Apple, before the software industry. Literally, it was a blank sheet of paper. Nobody was using technology or computers. It was foreign to our way of life. It was basically, big government used it. That was about it. And so just really grateful to be on the ground floor of pioneering the greatest industry ever, the software industry. I think one of the greatest, and was fortunate to help a company that launched the first type of contact management software and became quickly one of the pioneers in an industry called customer relationship management. So my career grew and took off. And before you knew it, I was traveling the world at 35 and was a luminary in my field. And then at 40, I was running this major multinational company. At 42, left that world. I was a workaholic to save my marriage, and we got 40 years now, man. So we're doing incredible. And felt the call of God to become a pastor, became an ordained licensed evangelical pastor, and became a pastor to the homeless. And, never thought I'd do that, but I basically told God, I will do whatever you call me to do. He's been amazing on how he's used a broken life, that had all these business skills, saved my marriage, which I loved, and my family, and really saved me. And so I got involved with that, and he called me to be a pastor to the homeless. So I started to work with the homeless. Next thing you knew, I built another company that helped homeless off the street. We're talking about the chronically ill and sick and chronically homeless. And to this day, we've helped thousands off the streets. And every year we help over 150 women and children, mothers, aged out foster youth girls, keeping them off the street, trafficked women, we rescue them. And then for the last 7 years, got involved with the migrant farm workers and became a pastor to the migrant farm workers, the Hispanic farm workers in there. Also was involved in protecting religious liberty as a church. And we won a major lawsuit to protect religious liberty from the city of Ventura. So all of that is to say this: I was not looking at politics, never thought about politics, never thought of myself running for any office, but God just started to show me. I mean, the swamp in Sacramento, I think that's the best way to say it. The level of just pure corruption and evil, immorality, just whatever words you want to use, where all of us woke up one day and we looked around and said, what happened to our state? It's been taken from us. There's this government that is literally stealing our state from us, stealing our dreams, stealing our businesses, stealing our values, and most of all, going after our kids in a major way. And so I started to pray to God. I said, God, you've got to rescue this state, bring it back to righteousness and justice. And God kind of showed me my life and showed me all the ways he prepared me for this. And here I am. I love my state. I absolutely love people. For the last 21 years, I've been a servant, and, just not looking for anything in return, just to the joy of my heart to help others. And he showed me this incredible business skill and engine that he built me to be, high capacity guy, and all of the things I've done that address the biggest issues that can unite us. And here I am running for governor for, I think, all the right reasons, because I really want to make a difference and fix the foundation for the next 30 years.
Yeah, and that's a huge thing. And, just stepping back in your story, because I have a good friend who kind of has a similar story in a way, where he was really high up in corporate America. Then all of a sudden he says, hey, I'm leaving my job, making tons of money without an education, really. Marine, bravely fought for our country, and Desert Storm and all that stuff. Anyways, he tells me, hey, Brian, I'm leaving my job. And I knew how much money he was making. And I was in medical school, broke at the time. I said, what's wrong with you, man? He goes, I'm called to the ministry. And I go, are you having a midlife crisis at 28 or whatever, however old he was? But really, when you have a calling on your life, so many people I've met in life, and that's why I did this podcast too, where the Lord calls you and you say, okay, yes, I'm going to lose money on this thing. I'm leaving this, and you're calling me to, and the contrast is so stark that you leave a company making a lot of money and say, okay, I'm called to help the homeless. Well, we all know there's not going to be a lot of money in helping the homeless, right? So that's the thing, when the Lord calls you, go, this doesn't make sense, but I'm called to do this.
You're absolutely right. And it is a calling. It really is. And I don't think that you can really do this effectively unless you feel, the breath of God on you. And I have worked my entire life understanding how incredibly blessed we are with the good news of Christ. I know that he can turn this around. There's so much hopelessness right now in the state of California, and anger and frustration, and people feel violated, and they look around, they go, okay, I live here. I've got a home. I own a home here. Or I live here. Or I'm renting a home, whatever it is, apartment, but it doesn't feel like home anymore. It feels like it's been stolen from us. And it's this sense that all of a sudden we're on the front lines of history, and maybe there's a God moment here for all of us to step in and say, okay, we've been reading the Bible and all the stories of courageous men and women that have just said, here I am, Lord, send me. And that have stood in the gap, that have faced Goliath, the great story of David, a shepherd boy. And, and they lined up all, Samuel goes to Jesse's house and they line up all the sons. It must be this one, must be this one. And God was looking for somebody that was a servant, that was a shepherd, that was in the background. And I think that's what he's looking for in our generation, that we truly have an opportunity to walk our faith in a way that changes, that turns the pages of history, that gets imprinted in the book of Acts. And I really do believe God can turn this around. All he needs is a faith-based yes that says, here I am, Lord, I'll step in the gap.
Yeah, the hard thing is getting the message out when you're not a sexy movie star. You're someone who has a lot of media attention. It's hard because the media wants to suppress people like you so that you can't get your word out. And so that's a hard thing. So how are you campaigning? How are you getting your name out there? Because I'm looking at my recall election. I see so many names on that list. So
yeah, man.
Yeah, that's the hard thing. And I know you're reaching out to the Latino communities, to the churches. You're doing a grassroots type effort.
Exactly, Brian. And this is the God moment. This is the God thing. Having opportunities to speak with folks like yourself that have a following is the doors that God is opening. And of course, you know, one of the things that really connected me with you is the pace of this is so intense that I pivoted and finally took seriously my diet, and that has really made a difference in my energy level. But along with that, it really is a God thing. It is a grassroots effort, and you know, I pray and God speaks to me as He speaks to us through His Word, through thoughts and impressions. When you're soaked in God's Word, you know His voice, and you can distinguish it. You know, and that's just the way it is. You know, and so I have heard God's calling. You know, and I'm going to do something mighty. I'm going to do something really incredible. I'm going to take an unknown business / pastor and a forgotten or a people that have been ignored, my church. You know, they have made it really clear that we're not essential. The church is not essential. Everything got locked down except big businesses got locked down. So you could go to a Home Depot, but you couldn't go into a church. You could go to a liquor store, but you couldn't go into a church. You could go to a tattoo parlor, but you couldn't go to church. And the notion,
a casino and a strip club also.
A strip club, right? You could go to a strip club, but you couldn't go to a church. This is the moment, I believe, that God is going to do a miracle, and it's folks like you that have incredible faith and programs, and the word gets out, and the word is getting out. And so he said to me, he said, Sam, the way I want you to enter into this race is using my name unapologetically and awakening my sleeping giant army, which is the Hispanic community. And so I've been going up and down the states. It's truly grassroots. It's confounding the wise. People are saying, well, you don't have the money that these big politicians have. Well, you don't have the following. You don't have the brand. Get out of the race. And yet, what I do have, I give away, and that is, the presence and power of God. That's a resume, an actual resume that works. I have the business experience and the leadership experience to run the 6th largest economy. I have the actual compassion experience, 14 years addressing homelessness to solve an issue that unites the state. We all want homelessness. And then I've earned the trust of the biggest single voting bloc in the history of California, which is the Latino voters. Because I've served them for 5 years. And that's how he said, I'm going to win. He said that I want you to just get out there and speak truth and love and tell the people that we are going to rebuild the foundation on righteousness and justice. And we're going to heal this land and bring California back to its people and back to God. And I'm trusting that. I'm trusting that the grassroots effort will win the day.
Yeah. And I think stepping out in faith and stepping out and saying, look, I've been invested in these communities, because a lot of people talk, but they've never done anything, right? Exactly. They've never really ran a company. They've never written a paycheck. They've never had the stresses that we have running businesses of saying, once this happens, and all these contingencies. And I think also having someone who steps out in faith and says, this is what I believe. It's going to be a cost, because I know, it's how the Lord works. We cross paths just randomly, right? We have a connection, of a connection type thing. And then you're like talking keto, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I know low carb keto. Let's talk, right? Let's get the information. And I owe you an hour of my time when you get a break we'll talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
But you're doing that. You're getting yourself healthier. You're looking at, and I think we both have a heart for the Latino community. That's one thing that's brought us together. And someone said, hey, you guys both have similar interests. Let's talk about this, because, just yesterday, one of the greatest, as a matter of fact, I'll tag it on to the end of this one. Times of my life is I'm taking care of some Latinas up in the Vacaville area, Northern California. It's everyone said you can't help them. And I said, we'll see. They're not going to give up tortillas. They're not going to give up rice. They're not going to give up flan. They're not going to do it. And I said, okay. So as a group, these women have lost over 160 pounds. They're reversing their diabetes. They're getting healthier. And they're saying, yeah, I don't need to. I was eating 8 tortillas with each meal. And she loses 30 pounds by stopping it, making changes in life. And I think so many people have given up on the homeless. You don't know this, but my wife and kids and I, every Christmas Eve, and a lot of times during the year, we'll go out to the homeless and just sit and talk to them and just bring them food, bring them something they need.
Yeah.
I mean, the appreciation and just talking to someone about bad life decisions and what got them to where they're at, and regrets and hopes and all those things. And I think when we take hope away is the worst thing we could do to someone.
Exactly. You know what? And you just nailed it on the homeless issue. I wrote a book. It's called More Than Animals, and it chronicles the history of my journey over the last 14 years of really engaging with, with people that do not have homes. And I realized that they're treated less than an animal's treated. And what you do, what you just said is so key, Brian, that you and your family go and talk to them. You hang out with them. It's not just that you throw them some meat, throw them some food, but you actually get to know them. Every single one of them has a story, and same with the Hispanic people. I have fallen in love with the people group. I've never met a more hardworking people. They don't complain. They work hard. They have incredible core family values. They have incredible business values, conservative values. That most of them, I don't want to get into the whole party thing, but just the fact is, over 85% are registered Democrats, but the Democratic Party doesn't reflect them at all really anymore. Maybe one time long ago, but the Democratic Party has gotten so extreme. It's the party of big tech. It's the party of big wealthy. It's not the party of the people anymore. And that's really conservatism. Really represents the people. And these people are just as frustrated as how badly they've been ignored. So the homeless are treated less than animals. You have 40% of the population, which is Hispanic, that are virtually ignored. And then you have the church, which is considered not essential. And just imagine if these groups rose up together and sent shockwaves to Sacramento that says, you know what, we're going to take our state back. It's time to reset this, because there's a humanity here, there's a morality here, and it's time to break the injustice and all of the fraud and corruption that is now in Sacramento. And I believe the Hispanic people are the key. I think they're the sleeping giant. We awaken them to vote for conservative values, along with awakening the church to say, let's get a pastor into office, and we can do some incredible things, because I don't think California needs another politician right now. And I don't think California needs another celebrity right now. I mean, we've had those for the last 40 years, and look what it's gotten us. So many of our people are just leaving the state. We have the worst public education in the country. Over $100 billion is spent for the worst education in the country. You can take 20 states' budgets and combine them, and our budget is higher. And now they are aggressively turning the public schools into state churches, where they are, as a matter of law, they're implementing this framework that over the next 10 years, every public school, all the way down to kindergarten, can now teach the transgender belief system, which is that gender is not assigned by God. There's no male and female. It's, hey, you can be whatever you want, and gender was a guess. And imagine teaching a kindergartner, confusing a kindergartner, a 7 and 8 year old with this. And then the sex education in 6th grade, and this is happening now, and parents have to look at the sex education curriculum through the California Healthy Youth Act. You will be appalled. They are teaching the sexual practices of the gay and lesbian in graphic detail, and they are promoting those practices as a way to keep from getting a woman pregnant. And then they're promoting the lifestyle, and they're helping these kids transition at any age from one sex to another. And then they're changing the English language, getting rid of the pronouns, putting in gender neutral bathrooms, and forcing this agenda on the people without asking our permission, with literally, and so we are at a time when I believe California needs a pastor.
Yeah, we're in trouble. I remember when we passed a law or saying that, kids 13 could get an abortion without consent of their parents, right? I can't give you a Tylenol as a doctor without consent of the parent, but that can happen. And, the risk and just from a healthcare perspective, the craziness of where we've gone. And I understand the principles that they're trying to push, but I think part of it is someone has to step up and say that this is getting out of hand, and our governing bodies, some of the medical boards. I'm here, I see stuff just yesterday. I'm looking, and they keep saying pregnant people. It's like not pregnant women anymore, and they're changing the name of the maternity wards to other names. This whole political correctness, a lot of us care about people, but at some point you kind of have to say, do we have common sense anymore?
Well, yeah, and we need a baptism of common sense, really. That's what we need. I mean, we lack common sense, but it's even worse. We have one party rule. Last time I checked, whenever you have one party rule in any state or country, it's the slippery slope of socialism that leads to Marxism and communism. And we see that. We have mask mandates on little kids. We have vaccine mandates on kids. We're being forced to do things against our will. And this is a line too far for all Californians. It's like, wait a second, whether I'm a Republican, a Democrat, an independent, a libertarian, whatever, I'm rising above this to say, I am an American and I have freedom. And that's what unites us. And that's why I'm running, because it's time to bring California back to its people and to fix these issues and rise above party to what we have in common as Californians and restore balance again. And it's this honoring all people, all lifestyles. Californians always done this, but now what they're doing is forcing a lifestyle, forcing a religious belief system, forcing a sexual practice, and forcing a ideology which says, hey, no longer is this a republic and no longer are you free. You're going to do what we tell you to do the way we want you to do it. And that is why we are out of time, and we have got to get this Governor Newsom out of office, most corrupt governor ever, and change the tide and get balance in the assembly and in the Senate. And that is why God's called me into this race, to clean out the temple and restore trust and transparency for the people again. Fix the foundation so we can rebuild the house. samgallucci.com is where you can find all the information about me. I'm so thankful that you've given me the opportunity to be on your broadcast, and I'd love to come back and learn from you, keto. I've been keto 15 pounds and counting.
I know that. We like
so
that,
much
man.
more
That's
energy,
awesome.
dude.
I can't take credit for it because he just kind of heard about it, but I'm gonna help you, man. We're both gonna do this thing. And then also, I just want to give you a word of encouragement on the way out. The first thing I said to my wife when I woke up this morning is like, you know what? The sleeping giant is awakening. And you said that just now on the podcast, which is amazing, because I gave me goosebumps when you said it the first time. And I hear what you're saying. The sleeping giant, we have to wake up. We can't. And the other thing is that the unintended consequence that I'm seeing right now is people are reaching out to me about faith issues a lot more now. I think once you start getting challenged, when I was, I've done some work in Cuba, and the Cuban people are some of the greatest people on earth. They get it, and they live by faith so strongly. And I asked them, why do you have so much faith living in this crazy? And they know the system's crazy there. And they say, because we need God. Right. We need God to survive. And every day he provides, and we get our rice and we get our beans, and someone brings us fish when we need it, or something happens. And so I think sometimes when things get so bad, people start looking up, which is the last thing that a lot of people want us to do.
Right. Exactly. And so the unintended consequences is always God. People look up, when there's no other place to find hope, we can always find it in Christ. And so you're right. And so this is the greatest time in history to be alive. God has assigned us into this time. Romans 8:28, and we know that all things work together for good for those who love God and are called according to his purpose. I see that in my life, and I believe that for every person listening, every single thing that's happened to you, God will use it for your good and for the good of humanity. We have to just believe that and walk in that. And I hope that everybody that listens checks out Sam Gallucci, GALLUCCI.com, and join me in bringing California back to its people and back to God.
Amen. Pastor, on the way out, I know you got to go because you got to get on the road. Tell me what's life's best medicine for you. That's the name of this podcast. And I always like to say, hey, what motivates you? What gets you up in the morning? What gives you joy and peace?
Life's best medicine for me is being in God's word, because when I'm in his word, I'm in his hope. And when I do good, I'm finding the one who is good, God.
That's all good with me, man. I'll take the same thing. So, hey, thank you so much for joining us. Get on the road and go get your campaigning. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. God bless you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Brian.
All right. And everyone listening, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, keep up the good fight, and get out and vote. Hey, all, we just finished recording with Sam Gallucci, a guy running for governor of California, and I think it's really important. I think I just want to say a little bit more is that, it's important to stand up for what you believe. Don't push in people's face or be difficult, but there's hard times in life, and there's times where there's going to be a cost for faith. There's going to be a cost for your integrity. And I was just thinking yesterday, excuse me, this is the first time that I've really had to say, gosh, do I compromise my integrity to fly under the radar? Stuff I'm looking at in medical studies, stuff I'm looking at, data behind the scenes that's not being presented to people. And it's hard. It's a tough line because, a lot of us feel that pressure of, we want to fit in and we want to do the right thing. And, if you're the only person of faith at your workplace, or if you're the only one who says, yeah, maybe I'll try going to church, but I'm telling you, I'm meeting all kinds of people who are going back to church for the first time in years, 20, 30, 50 years, that are going back and saying, what do I believe and what do I stand for? So I think sometimes when we go through these hard times, all of us have been stressed and tense and worried. And that's why we gravitate to what we gravitate towards, whether it's food, whether it's alcohol, whether it's pornography, whether it's just escaping with music in our room by ourselves. But these are important times to engage with people and talk and be honest with people, and also have grace for other people. The thing that was on my brain this morning is I thought, would I cross voting for a different party if I knew the absolute integrity of the person running? And I think the answer is yes. If I knew someone was running for my party or something that I believed that had no integrity, I would not vote for them. I couldn't do it, because I think integrity matters. And so I think for all of us, and not hating people of the other political party, not hating people if they're vaxxed or not vaxxed, not hating people because they're of a different race, sexual preference. I don't care. I'm going to love that person. And I think that's what we're called to do. And it's a hard thing sometimes because there's some people that may be evil out there. And we're seeing it more and more now that are taking our freedoms, right? Where you can't meet with grandma, you can't do certain things. And it's a tough time. So I think everyone, really look to yourself, make yourself the best person. And I think a big thing is, look, have grace for people, forgive yourself, forgive others, bend a knee if you have to, in a way. And I laugh because I remember when Tim Tebow bowed his knee to God and everyone criticized him. And then other people bow their knee, or turn their back on the flag. And that's one thing I've noticed. We just had the fall of Afghanistan, and we watched those people cling to the airplanes, and with their last grip, they held on, and a lot of them fell to their deaths or got crushed in the landing gear. But they believed, and they give up their life for a better life here in America, right? So I think when I see it's on the news now, if an American athlete shows pleasure in the flag or their country, or they show pride in their country, it's on the news now. That used to be expected when I was a kid. Like everyone cried when they were on the stand getting a gold or a silver or a bronze medal. And now you have people, and what Sam was talking about, I know exactly the mentality of being in El Salvador, Guatemala, Mexico, where you don't have hope of a better life, saying I'm gonna try it in America because I know I could make it there, right? And so there's something about America that draws people. There's something about us standing up for each other. There is something about going into the homeless shelters. There is something about volunteering. So do things, reach out, help people. Like, don't sit at home and just be frustrated and upset and angry. It's not going to get you anywhere. It's really saying, hey, I'm going to take action. I'm going to run for my city council. I'm going to do something in the community. I'm going to help kids at a school. I'm going to go read to them. Grandparents out there, you are the best role models for kids. So some of these kids, they just need someone to be kind to them and smile, because they're not getting that at home. Maybe they have a broken family, they have lack of support. Guess where they end up? Gangs, because that's their family now. So I think a lot of us have a responsibility where we can turn off the TV for a couple hours and get out there and just help someone, volunteer, do something, speak, start a podcast. I don't care what you do, but don't sit at home and be frustrated and agitated and angry about what's happening around you, unless you're willing to step up and step into the battle a little bit. It's never pretty, it's difficult, and but I think it's something we're called to do. And I think the happiest people I see, as if people who've been listening to this podcast for a while, the happiest people are the ones who do for others. It's not about how many cars you have or how big your house is or how much money you're making at the end of the day. It's about the impact you're going to have on people around you. So everyone, again, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. I don't want to be too big on the soapbox today, but I just want to share with you what I'm feeling and what I'm seeing. And I do have hope. I do have hope that good people are rising up all around us. So keep the faith, keep the hope, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to this episode. We greatly appreciate your support. We would greatly appreciate a positive thumbs up on all of the platforms like iTunes and Spotify or wherever you're listening. And we just thank you for our Patreon supporters. We greatly appreciate your help in getting this message out. We think there's a lot of important information. And hopefully this helps you. Have a great day, and thank you for listening, and thank you for your support.